Hello, hello, hello. This is Adolph Vega from 3D or 2D.com, and this is the introduction to the Ant-Man spoiler cast. So this is the original Ant-Man, not Ant-Man and the Wasp. It's two different movies. And it's, since Ant-Man and the Wasp is about to come out, I thought it'd be fun to repost the spoiler cast and talk about how this movie is different. It's fun to go back in time and see the kind of things that we talked about originally. One thing that was kind of fun was that at the end of the podcast, James mentions that Disney should make a deal with Fox to just get the Marvel characters back. And, as of July 1st, 2018, that deal has been made. And he also mentioned, Sony should stop making their own movies. And for the most part, they're making some movies without Marvel, but for the most part, they're working with them. So it's kind of a neat time capsule. And we talk about Fantastic Four. Fantastic Four at the time did have 3D, and then it was cut very, very late in production because it was going out of budget. And so we never got around to watching Fantastic Four. So we mentioned that briefly. I think both James and I kind of agree that it's not an awful, awful movie. It's just boring and bland. It doesn't go anywhere. It just feels 5 hours long, and it's okay. So that's that. But I also want to apologize ahead of time that this audio is a little bit scratchy. I'm using different equipment than I am using now. So, we got to do what we can to try to fix things, and I can only do so much to fix it. So I do apologize ahead of time so you are aware that it's going to sound not as crisp and clean as it is now. All right, so on to the show.
Warning, this podcast contains spoilers. Warning, this podcast contains spoilers.
Let's go watch it in 2D. No, let's go watch it in 3D. But if we watch it in 3D, then is it worth the cost?
Imagine a soldier the size of an insect. The ultimate secret weapon.
If you give godlike powers to everyone, it's going to be chaos.
So how do we stop him?
I know a guy. Scott, I've been watching you for a while. You're different. And I believe everyone deserves a shot at redemption.
After these messages, we'll be right back.
This podcast is brought to you by 3D Wiggle. With 3D Wiggle software, you can impress your family and friends with 3D GIFs and videos. To find out more information, please click on the link in the description for 20% off coupon as well. This podcast is also brought to you by Patreon. With Patreon, you can become a patron and get this podcast commercial free and get many more benefits. Please click on the description again to get more information. Now, back to the show.
Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to the spoiler-rich review of Ant-Man. If you don't want spoilers, go listen to the regular review of Ant-Man, which we have on the website on podcast series. This will have all the spoilers, including the spoilers at the very end of the movie with the post-credit and the final post-credit scene. So we're going to talk every aspect of Ant-Man here. If you have not seen the movie, we're going to basically spoil it and ruin it for you. So this is your warning. All right, James, let's go into the movie itself. We said before in the previous review, there's a few different stories here. The first one being, Dr. Pym, or Pym, how do you pronounce that name?
Pym, yeah.
Okay.
Hank Pym.
And, he makes this super suit. And it's set back in 1989 in the past with a scene with Agent Carter and Howard Stark.
Yeah, Howard Stark.
And they're basically wanting to weaponize his suit, and he doesn't want any of it, which is obvious because it's a really powerful tool, and it's kind of amazing. I do really like this aspect of the movie. I don't know if you agree with me, James, but they really did play up Dr. Pym's intelligence, and I really liked it because this is 40 years later or whatever. Not 40, but 30 years later, whatever. And it works perfectly fine. It's still pretty high tech. It took them this much time to be able to make a yellow jacket. It's incredibly impressive, and I really liked the acting and how they kind of presented that he was so smart. It took him so much time to copy his work.
Yeah, I can see that. For one thing I got out of the whole 1989 scene was actually a small kind of prelude to Civil War, in the sense that even back when it was just Tony Stark's dad, people weren't like siding with them, or they didn't trust him. It kind of showed, because at the beginning of the film, Hank Pym basically says that I'm leaving and I'm taking my work with me, and then of course Howard Stark's like, no, we need you. You're really good with of course the work. And then later in the film, he even says that he doesn't trust Tony Stark. He's been calling his suit a cute toy or something.
Yeah, I love that disc, because when you really look at it, the Ant-Man suit is quantum leap above the Iron Man suit.
Yeah,
technology.
So not only that, but like the ability to control ants. Like not he just goes the step further. That's the thing I kind of liked about the entire hero. Really, it's like it's not just that he can shrink, but he can also control it.
Yeah,
like
and the molecular density aspect I thought was a really fun idea, where he's still a 200-pound man, but he still has, he's just shrunk to it.
Yeah, that made all the fight scenes really cool.
Yeah, and Dr. Okay.
When they're like jumping up, and then they change size, and then like punches them.
Mm-hmm.
That's cool.
Now, the scenes with him getting out of prison and his, gang right there, and I kind of liked it. I was just like, okay, I wish they would have shown that scene, because that scene where they talk about him, why he went to prison, seemed pretty interesting, and I always liked the whole...
There was a comic time.
Okay. So, but you know what I mean? Show me what you're talking about.
Yeah, I know what you mean. It's just, they always release, these prelude comics, and one of them was Scott Lang's, Big Heist or something.
Yeah, and I really like how, you mentioned it before, it feels different, but it's self-contained. So if you haven't seen the rest of the cinematic movies, well, shame on you, because you're missing out great movies. But if you really haven't, you're fine to watch Ant-Man, and if you've seen the other ones, you get a lot out of it, I like that aspect. You gotta continually give credit to Marvel and Disney for just being able to balance that tightrope and make compelling, enjoyable movies that are still independent and yet enjoyable. It's amazing.
Yeah, if I can add on, not only are do they stand alone great, but they also work together because of the references, and you can tell that this is a connected universe. It's not like the DC universe where it's oh yeah, it kind of, in the DC universe, from what I've seen at least so far, DC really has to push references. It feels forced. In Marvel, in the Marvel DC, MCU, it just flows. It just makes sense. It just works really well.
And, a lot of people, including us, weren't really too excited about this movie before we watched it. I originally was just like, whatever. It looks good, I guess. I'll have to watch it because I watched everything else. But now that I've watched it, I'm glad I did, because it's a lot of fun.
It really was good.
So we talked about the criminal friends in that movie. So does the criminal friends like, is that part of like the Ant-Man comic book, or not really? Just made it for the movie.
I need to check, but I think that Scott Lang does have a team, because Scott Lang was also a thief in the comic books.
Okay.
In the original comics, what happened was Hank Pym basically retired from being Ant-Man, and then Scott Lang basically stole the suit and became Ant-Man. So it's a little bit different. In this, he stole it, and then he was like, I always meant for you to steal it, that kind of thing.
Yeah, and I really liked that scene where he did steal it, where he did go into his house, and then he planned, and then he figured everything out. It's like, that's a really genius scene, because you really get a good sense of how good he really is at breaking in his brain.
Exactly.
And, how he interacted with his daughter, I don't think people are talking about this online. I don't try to read or watch reviews of movies we're going to review. Just don't care, because I don't want any of their stuff to influence me. And I'm wondering what people think about it, because I actually really liked how he handled his daughter and how it worked out, because
I did too. I mean, at first, I thought that it's like, oh no, is this going to be a problem? But they made it work, especially talking about the former Wasp.
Yes, exactly. Because I kind of saw that coming, but I was like, I really hope they say that. I really hope they. And then when he said, you know what, I'm expendable, you're not, I was like, ding, 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 you got that right. That's exactly why, and it makes sense of the story. And whenever you do see that post-credit scene where he basically says, we have this other Wasp suit here, that was really a nice thing for her, because you could kind of see her frustration, because she does know that plays left and right, but, now he feels comfortable enough giving her this. And, I liked, it felt like it was a nice redeeming thing for her. It wasn't just throw away, here you go. It was, she earned it, and it was a better way to do it, than just giving her the thing, the Wasp thing. So I was kind of confused with the Wasp. Was it, wasn't it originally in the comics that she's like a mutant, like X-Men, and she has the wings like actual X-Men, or is it not that way at all? Just robotic?
I'm pretty sure that's actually what she is. I could be wrong, but I think no. In fact, I think that's the Ultimate Comics. Yeah, she's like a mutant. But in the normal comics, I think she has a suit like Ant-Man too. I could be wrong.
Now, the scenes when he becomes Ant-Man, I thought they were a lot of fun, and it was just kind of interesting to see that perspective.
They had sort of an old style montage, kind of, when he's training.
Yeah, and that's a weird thing. It kind of is. We kind of take it for granted now, but we're 11 movies into this universe, and we haven't had an origin movie in a long time. And this works. It works completely as an origin story, and like you said in the other review, passing the torch story, where we know of the character enough that you feel comfortable passing the torch to the new guy, and you feel comfortable enough understanding what this power and abilities are.
Fun fact about Hank Pym was that he was supposed to be referenced in all the way back in Thor 1. One of the scientists was supposed to reference Pym, but they actually took that reference out because they weren't sure if Hank Pym was ever going to be in a movie.
Mm-hmm. So, what do you think about this passing the torch idea instead of just making it all brand new?
I actually really think it worked, because the Hank Pym Ant-Man is actually kind of controversial in the comic books, because he has a temper, and a lot of people don't like him. So I can kind of understand why they would try to start fresh with Scott Lang. And Scott Lang is a character in the comic book, so it makes sense to just give it to him and be kind of passing the torch kind of.
Yeah, I really do like them trying to kind of expand here and there the timeline of the cinematic universe with stuff with Agent Carter and Howard. I really like seeing Howard Stark come back from his role from Iron Man 2 and just wear makeup and look older. Same thing with Agent Carter. I've seen that.
In the MCU, I've noticed is that some of the funnest scenes are ones that take place in the past. Whenever they show us glimpses of like the 80s or like the 60s, or in the Thor movies, I always look forward to when they go back thousands of years and explain this like cosmic event that happened. So flashbacks in the Marvel universe are always fun.
Yeah.
I think, like, for sure.
And it's good to see that it's bigger. It's bigger than just current time. It's every time. And, there's, the 80s and then like the 60s and, because Agent Carter is like in the 40s, I think, and, the TV series. Yeah. But, combining those elements and, flashbacking with Winter Soldier and, other times and, just having this bigger scope, it works. It works completely well, and it's very nice. Now, one thing I kind of thought was interesting was like how they control the ants with just like the little Bluetooth. I liked it, and I liked that you had to be in control of your mind, but I wish they would have told you a little bit more how. So I know it's pheromones or something, but, why doesn't it work with other insects or spiders, arachnoids or whatever?
Okay, in the comic books, the reason why he can do that is because ants kind of, how their antenna, like they give signals to each other kind of, and so what he was doing was sending like these like signals that mimic like a queen ant kind of, and then that's how he controls them.
Yeah,
that's how ants actually communicate. In the real world, like the queen like does this weird thing with like, I don't know, like they're almost radio waves, but they're biological or something. It's weird, but that's kind of what they were basing it on.
I just wish the movie would have explained that a little bit more.
Yeah.
I was like, come on, give me a little bit more here.
The one thing that I was really hoping that they do later on is for Ant-Man to become Giant Man, which in the comics, not only can he shrink, but he can grow. So he can become huge. So, I mean, like, that comes in handy when, like, they're fighting, like, they would be fighting, like, Thanos' army or something. Like, and I mean, I think it was hinted, to be honest. Like, one guy noted in this Easter egg video that when they in the film they have these discs, right? You throw the disc, and it either enlarges something or shrinks something. And if you notice, one of the discs was actually thrown at an ant, and it grew. It did not kill the ant, though. It made it just grow big. So people were saying that if Ant-Man used it on himself, he could grow huge. Like if he was at normal height, he could use it to become massive and become Giant Man.
Well, that's the thing. It completely is in the context of this movie because how he survived, right to the end when, he had to go into microscopic level and how he survived by using one of those things. Well, that was really smart, and it makes sense. And, that being his only real weapon besides the ants itself was really fun. And, that I really, I was worried that they ruined that toy truck scene in the trailers because it was such a fun scene. They didn't ruin it at all. It was
there was
fun.
So much more to it.
And
the cool part was what they did was they kept, like, showing the fight scene and, like, all these sounds and, like, big, like, explosions and things, and then they just cut to what's actually happening, and it's barely making any sound.
I love that. It was so fun to see that zoomed out how it actually looked, and then it zoomed in, oh my god, look at this epic action scene.
Yeah.
And, I thought they did a good enough job, with him naming the ants and, having a connection with them. Now, you actually do feel bad when some of them do eventually die, even though there's thousands of them.
Yeah, they're just ants, but you feel for them. It's like, I think that if you have a good enough film, you can really make anything like sympathetic. Like, for example, the raptors in Jurassic World. Like, oh man, I felt sympathetic when some of them died. Like, because you get attached.
Now, I thought the Yellow Jacket, like I said before, was kind of weak, and so how convenient it was that he knew Hydra, apparently,
Yeah. I thought that it was kind of weird. Like, and that's one of the oddest aspects of this film. There's a scene where it's the basically guy says, he points to a bunch of business execs who apparently are working for Hydra, but he just kind of covers it up and says that you should see what they're doing. It's really good. And it's like, no, like, Hydra's supposed to be gone, right? How are these guys around? Like, I hope that's explained, that little tiny bit of Hydra lived on, or they got a new name, or something,
In Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., Hydra is struggling, but they do explain a little bit that there is a few here and there left. But, of course, they could probably explain it more in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Season 3, because Ward in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is now, I guess, technically the controller of Hydra, but, most of Hydra has been kind of gone and destroyed.
Yeah.
So it's still kind of left up in the air, and it just seems kind of strange. It's like, oh, by the way, these people are Hydra. Like, wait, does it really have to be? I mean, there could be plenty of evil militaries that would want the tech anyway, so,
Yeah, and you could even say it was the Ten Rings, so.
Yeah, the Yellow Jacket suit, after all the hype in that promo video, it seemed kind of weak.
Yeah.
It really couldn't,
Like, I think that the Yellow Jacket suit was, like, neat in the sense that, like, it had stingers. That's what I was kind of, like, struggling. It also could fly, if I remember correctly.
Now, one thing that I kind of saw in the movie that I was like, wait, when did this happen? So, he escaped they wanted to destroy the building that had the Yellow Jacket and stop everything from going on, which they successfully do, and he flies away, flies, in a helicopter with the little micro jacket. How did he get that to be super big and then into that outfit? Because I just didn't see that, and I was like, wait, did I miss a scene where he got his, because he had the shrink ray or whatever, but it didn't work. So, how did he get into that suit?
I think that maybe, off screen that is, he might have, like, found a way. Or maybe he was just, like, hoping that it would work. I think maybe he was just desperate, like, and there could have been, like, a malfunction and he could have, like, died or something. But he was just, like, so upset over, like, his company exploding. Major spoiler.
But you know what I mean, though? It just seemed like, wait.
Yeah, I could. It's just like, you could tell that Yellow Jacket was not the focus of the film. And to be honest, I think that they had a lot of other things to be focusing on. So I'm not, like, just because the villain's weak doesn't mean the film is bad, because there's just so many other characters, like the trio of, like, friends he has that he, like, burgles with. Those were funny, like, and I'm just saying, like, I wouldn't take out their scenes to have more scenes with him.
Yeah, I just wanted to see how he got into that suit, because it didn't make any sense.
Yeah.
So that kind of threw me off a little bit. I do like how they kind of explained how the micro-universe is insane, because a lot of that science really is out there, and it just doesn't make sense. And that's actually how people in the science world think of and talk about it. It's like, yeah, once you go to, like, molecular level, it's way above our pay grade. We barely understand that kind of stuff, because it just doesn't, it's strange. And
what's interesting about the subatomic level and, like, that kind of area is that it's actually in the comic books. It's called the microverse.
Oh yeah.
But, like, and certain characters, of course, Ant-Man's been there, and even Dr. Doom was there a little while. So, I mean, it's a thing in the comic books. It wasn't just something that was created for the movie.
Well, yeah. But in real life too, that microverse is pretty crazy how that physics and doesn't work and doesn't whatever.
Yeah.
Now, the one thing they mentioned, the wasp being in there and how she had to save the day by shrinking down to that level and destroying a bomb. I like that sacrifice, and I like that they didn't rescue her, you know?
Yeah.
Because that would have been really easy. I've heard people online say that, oh, if you see in this one scene, 15 seconds in, you see her, but I was like, I didn't see it. I looked, I didn't see it, and I was like, all right, whatever. But I'm happy that they didn't rescue her. It's better of a story to leave her behind, and then maybe he could eventually find her and get her out, and, you know.
Yeah, it would have felt rushed.
Yeah, it would have been too easy, too, because the micro-universe, you know, that one spot where you turned that small in the bedroom just so happened to be the same spot as the woman where the woman is. You would think that it's better they didn't do it that way. Now, the whole cop thing with the other husband of the stepmom, I kind of liked it, but I kind of thought it was a little bit annoying, you know?
Yeah, I can see that. Like, I'm kind of like, just, like, give him a break, you know?
Yeah.
Like, there's a scene where he goes to, like, her birthday, and then, like, they make him leave, and it's like, I know he's like, a top-level, like, was it burglar or something, and he just got out of jail, but give him a break, you know? Like, seriously.
Yeah. I mean,
that was unfair.
So, yeah, I do like that the girl, I was a little bit worried that she was going to get annoying, but she didn't. I liked it felt genuine that they actually did love each other, and he, you know, cared about her, and
I'm very glad that they didn't do that plot line where, like, you know, in films where it's like, oh, you lied to me, I'm upset at you, and then like the rest of the second act, it's like they're separated or something, and they don't like each other. And then, like, in the third act, it's like, oh, I did this, now everything's cool. I hate that. Like, that's so obnoxious. I'm glad they didn't do that.
And that's kind of cool that you mentioned that, too, because they do kind of just roll with it. And, you know, just keep going. And, like, you know, that scene where he infiltrates, you know, Avengers headquarters, I thought it was a lot of fun.
That was cool because it actually shows some continuity in the sense that, like, that was the Avengers Academy that they set up in the end of Age of Ultron, and the initial reason they go there is because originally we learned from this movie is that it was originally a Stark warehouse, and only after Age of Ultron was it turned into the actual, like, academy or new base.
Yeah, and I was worried that they wouldn't even be able to do that because, you know, it just came out. Age of Ultron just came out 2 months ago. And I'm like, well, I know they're writing it, putting it all together, but, you know, it's going to be kind of hard because it's such a different movie, but they managed to work. And that scene with the Falcon was awesome.
Yes, it was very cool. One thing I really liked about that scene is that, like, he's kind of apologizing while he's, like, beating him up.
Yeah, he totally screws that up, but he manages to make it work, and that's why it's so
I thought it was cool how, like, Hank Pym was, like, chewing him out, and then, like, he just sets the thing on the table.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, I got it, I did it, you know.
Yeah. So
and
that was neat.
Now, this Falcon is actually different from the Age of Ultron one. It looks much more better. You know,
it looks a lot more sophisticated. It has like machine guns built into it, I think.
Yeah.
That was.
And I like the Falcon vision. It made sense for the character to have.
Yeah, it did.
You know, Falcons
like,
can see amazing.
It was pretty cool how he was just like, he can't see me, and then he said, yes, I can, you know. That was funny.
Okay. So, what other elements do you want to talk about this? Because, like, the one scene I didn't like was the kiss scene with the daughter.
That was, okay. I'll only excuse it because I think that if they do have a relationship, it'll be better in other films because they'll actually get time to explain it more.
Yeah.
in this film, it felt forced, but I know that they're probably going to do something good with it later on.
Those lines that the doctor said afterwards, though, kind of made me feel, okay, you know what? They understand that's crazy. It's just move on. I'm not going to,
Yeah.
He was like, oh, you're it.
So the last thing we talk about is actually the last thing we see in the film before, of course, goes black. Is at the final credit scene, which I think there's a lot of speculation on it. Have you heard about it yet?
Okay, let's explain this. So there's two post-credit scenes after the movie's over. One is where they show the new Wasp outfit to his daughter. The doctor.
And a little side note about that is that the Wasp costume actually looks exactly like it does in the comics.
Okay. And so then after all the credits, you go to the very end, and you see a scene with the Winter Soldier being stuck in this machine, and Captain America there with
Falcon.
Falcon, and they're like, so should we tell Tony about this? And he was like, no, we shouldn't. And it's kind of weird because Captain America is not in his suit, so it kind of seems like, okay, how did he get here?
Yeah, that's what I really liked about the scene. Like, of course, the Winter Soldier didn't talk; he was just there. And then, the Falcon is the Falcon's there, and of course he's telling Tony about, or he tells Captain America, like, should we tell Tony? And then he says, no, I don't think that Tony should know this. And then he says, we're going to need a team. And then, of course, Falcon responds with, I think I know a guy. And then it ends. Now, another thing, did you catch the Spider-Man reference?
Yes, I heard about that, and he said, apparently, IGN ran around a report about this, where King Feige or whatever, he says that, oh yeah, that reference is not a real reference, per se. We just threw that in. We didn't know at the time that we were going to get the rights to Spider-Man back. We're just throwing around references. I was like, oh, whatever. He saw that.
Wow, that's cool.
So, yeah, me and my fiance watched that scene, and we're like, wait, who are the other people he's referencing? We knew Spider-Man, obviously, but who's the person that jumps? Who's the other one? Do you know who I'm talking about or no?
Okay, actually, it was kind of hard to tell what he was saying, but what he said was he swings, he crawls, he walks on walls. That's what he says.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they were referencing just Spider-Man. And I was kind of confused with that too, but I heard what he actually said, the lines on it. I was like, okay, yeah, Spider-Man.
Wasn't there one or two before that where it's like, yeah, there's this one guy that jumps pretty high and this other guy that's strong?
No, that's the part I was confused about.
Okay. Now, did you like the whole back and forth? It was like the rumor and thing where I was like, well, this guy told me that guy told me. I liked it. I think
that was funny. They only did it. I liked how they only did it twice. I felt that if they did it 3 or more times, it would have got kind of bland. But they kept it like that too.
Exactly. I was about to say the same thing. You read my mind that if they would have used it 1 or 2 more times, I would have been done. That's it. Done. That's too much. But they used it enough that it was funny and kind of quirky, and it worked. So
not to mention that at the very end, he actually voices over Stan Lee, which was really funny.
Yeah, and it all made sense. It all worked out. So yeah, Ant-Man's pretty good. So what's the next Marvel movie, James?
Civil War.
Oh yeah, that's the next one. There's not another one in between this and that one.
So one thing I have a speculation about Civil War is that Ant-Man will appear in Civil War, and I think that he will join Cap's side. Because I believe that when Falcon says that he knew a guy, he was referencing Ant-Man.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Because remember how he just met up with Falcon.
Okay.
And how he kind of proved himself by disabling his suit.
Yeah, and you think they're gonna have a new super suit after this? again to fix it, or really?
No, I think that he might get it's the same one, maybe a little bit different, kind of like the Iron Man deal, where like every film he has a new suit, but it's not that much different.
Yeah, because I think the Winter Soldier suit was the weakest of all of them. He's just like, well, this isn't really a suit, just the wings.
Yeah, like it just had wings on it. It really just had, yeah.
Okay. Was there anything else? Any parting words you want to mention in the spoiler-rich review that we didn't mention before?
I'm glad that Marvel's going to start in Phase 3, going to start releasing 3 films a year, because I can't stand having to wait an entire year after, like, in July. It seems like a lot of films, but for me, who watches all the Marvel Climatic Universe films, it's like you watch one in May, and you watch one in, like, July, and then just like, oh, man, I have to wait a year almost for another Marvel film.
Well, that's why we have the TV shows, man. The TV shows help fill the gap, and
Well, I have to wait like another year also for the second season of Daredevil. So I mean,
yeah, Daredevil is gonna come back, and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is gonna come back, and
well, I don't know when they're gonna make Iron Fist. Come on, Marvel, make it. Get it up already so I can watch it.
All right. So overall, we both really like this movie. I give it an 8. James, you give it an 8 too, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, again, it's an achievement that I don't think I've ever seen before, or anyone's ever done before, linking so many different movies together and still being independent. And I don't think it's ever been done. I really don't. I don't think, there's been sequels before, and there's been, side stories here and there, but I don't think there's anyone ever done this, like, same way, where they're,
And it's so good and, like, so creative and things that the only problem I have with that is that, like, once you go with the Marvel Climatic Universe, you don't want to go back to the normal, like, movies don't connect to each other way that, like, all the other superhero films are.
Yeah, like he kind of like, oh wait, how does this pirate connect to that pirate? Does it connect to Tomorrowland, or connect to
Well, like for me personally, it's like the Marvel Climatic Universe kind of spoiled me in the sense that now, whenever there's like a new like X-Men film or new like DC film, I'm just like, it's not even in the MCU,
I know you gotta get over that, James. You really do. You got to be more fair with everything. I know, I agree. I'm complimenting them all the way, and but you still got to be fair, But yeah,
well, I'm going to be fair when X-Men and Fantastic Four go back to Marvel in Phase 4. Still crossing my fingers about that.
It might be a blessing in disguise not to have the Fantastic Four and X-Men in there, just because it might be too much,
No, I think that people will learn that okay, if I could say something about that, is that
right.
I think that the way for a long time we've experienced in films how, okay, Avengers are on this side, Spider-Man's on this side, and then Fantastic Four and X-Men. The way Marvel's supposed to be is all of them are in the same universe, okay?
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, that's the way the comics were, that's the way all the TV shows were, so I say, Fox, make a deal with Marvel so you can just connect them all. Get the full Marvel universe, none of this, Fox is releasing this and it will have no ties to, or the whole Sony universe. What even was that? Like, that was just a failure. Like, no one wanted to see an Aunt May trilogy.
All right. We're kind of taking this off the rails a little bit. Let's go ahead and end the show, and thanks y'all for listening, and we'll be back. The next, not quote-unquote real Marvel Universe movie, but it's in the Marvel comic book universe, not in the movie universe. Will be Fantastic Four coming out in a few weeks, and the trailers for that seem to be a little bit better than I originally thought, so it may be okay. It may not be as bad as
Okay.
So we'll see.
Yeah.
All right, so thanks for listening. Bye.
Bye.
All right, before this podcast ends, I want to give a thank you to my patrons. Right now, we have one patron, which is David from Spain, and I want to thank you for your financial support to help making this possible. If you want your name to be called out and your location, please become a patron on Patreon. Our link should be in the description, or just look for us, 3D or 2D, on Patreon, and you get plenty of benefits. So again, thank you, David from Spain, and I hope to have many more Patreon patrons with us soon. Thanks again, David. All right, so that's going to be it for this podcast.
We now have a Patreon, and the link is in the description. Thanks for watching.
And we are on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, a little bit everywhere. Just look for us, 3D or 2D. And of course, review us on iTunes. And if you want to write us a letter, our email address is email3dortwo d@gmail.com. So that's going to be it. Thanks for listening. Bye.
Bye. Okay, bye.
Bye, everyone.